When you're first starting out the process of writing your first memoir, it can be so difficult to know what to expect. And that's why today I wanted to bring on a special guest. So today we're going to be talking to Hope Fabillar, and she has just graduated from our group program, the Memoir Method. She was an A-plus student, and I wanted to have her share a little bit about her process. And I'll let you know, I hear so many people curious about how they will protect their relationship with friends and family, and Hope really had to grapple with that. So if you are wondering how to embark on this memoir journey with a deeply personal family story, you are going to want to stay tuned for this episode.
You've got the story, you've got the idea, you just don't know the steps in the process. If this is what's holding your memoir back, I have got the solution for you. The Memoir Method checklist is going to take you through every single step you need from idea to published marketable book. And you can download it now at pageandpodium.com/checklist.
Well, I am so excited to get into this conversation because I know you all are going to love Hope as much as we do. And her book is so great. We have so many good topics for you today. But first, let me introduce Hope so that you have a little sense of her background. From the newsroom to the audiobook narrator's microphone and author's chair, Hope Fabillar has established herself as a well-known name in Australian radio journalism. She's a two-time Australian Commercial Radio Awards finalist, an emerging audiobook narrator, and now a memoirist. So welcome, Hope. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start out. I know people are going to want to pick this book up when it comes out. Tell us a little bit about your book. What are kind of the main topics, themes, messages? What were you trying to say in your book?
All right. So it's about my search for my biological father, because I grew up thinking, my father died when I was 18 months old. That's what I was told. And I knew very little about him, but I just stuck with that narrative. And the older I got, I thought, who was he? I've got his name. What did he do? He was a pilot. What else? I couldn't find anything about him. So this is what the main gist of the book is about, finding who my father was.
Oh my gosh. And what folks at home don't know is that you had to start writing this book before you even knew how the story was going to play out, right?
I did. It was very strange. And without giving away too much that was in the book, I ran into a medium, and this was years before I wrote the book. And she said to me, your father is here. I said, what? What?
Gosh.
My father's at home watching television. What are you talking about, lady? And then she said to say, I'm sorry. And I thought, oh, that's where it all started. But it didn't get me going. It didn't compel me to write the book at that stage. And it wasn't until a few years later on that I did want to write it.
That's right. And so, as a journalist, you really were doing something that you had done a lot of times. You're tracing down the story, trying to figure out kind of what's going to be the most interesting angle. But when you're covering yourself, when you're writing about yourself, that is such a different experience. What was it like to be kind of uncovering the stages of this journey and realizing that you were going to share this with a broader public?
It was a changing, like the whole process kept changing. I would say, yeah, that's it. I'll write about my father. Okay, great. Let's do this. And then things would crop up, discoveries. It's like, what? It was like a plot twist as I started writing. So towards the end, it was not what I had expected. There were things that came up, surprising things, good surprises. And yeah, so much happened along the way that you just don't expect when you're writing a book.
That's right. Well, and talk a little bit about kind of what the process of writing was like for you. And of course, I've heard your story as you were writing, but I think it's so useful for folks to hear kind of about the triumph, of course. You finished your draft, but also there are a lot of struggles along the way. What kinds of things were challenging for you as you were putting your book together?
All right. So I thought, well, this is good. I'll write a book. How hard could it be? People do it all the time. So I sat down And I thought, oh, I'm going to need an outline. But I didn't know what I did as an outline wasn't the outline you're supposed to do. It was high school material. Few lines. There we go. Type, 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 type. 2 pages later, my story's done. And I thought, oh, how do people write a book? This is not as easy as I thought. And from there, I just thought, this is too hard. I can't do it. I've written my story in 2, 3 pages. How do I expand this? So I shelved it like a lot of people do. They have this wonderful book idea. They write what they think it is. It's maybe 2 pages, 3 pages, and then they go, oh, I'm stuck. I don't know. So I shelved it, and I shelved it for 3, 4 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, how does that feel now, kind of looking back? That is such a common thing. I've heard from people that they had shelved their memoir for 10 years even. But what does it feel like to kind of come back to it? What was it like to revisit it after all that time?
I looked at it. Oh, you mean the second time around? The
Yeah.
second time around, it took a few goes. It was like, can I do this? I don't think I've got it in me to write this book. But then, I ran into one of I think I saw you on a video. You were being interviewed on Readsy,
Mm.
and you were talking about the memoir method. And I thought, maybe this is for me. And then I looked into it, and then I got into it. I signed up with you guys. And wow, guess what? I went beyond 2 pages. And I look back now that I'm going through my manuscript, I'm going, I have written a book. Who would have thought I could have reached this far? Because I did shelve it and I thought, I can't do this. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, there's a lot to know. I mean, I love that you mentioned the outlining piece because I do find that a lot of times when people hear outline, they have this really rigid sense of Roman numerals and, is the indent the correct amount from the margin or whatever. But as you kind of found, like that is so irrelevant. Really, what you need from an outline is a plan. You need the guidance as you're moving forward. So I'm curious. So your first outline was like 2, 3 pages. How long did your book end up being?
Okay, the first outline wasn't even an outline. It's what I thought was an outline because you don't get taught this stuff in high school. And I just thought, oh, I'll just write 10 lines. Chapter one's about this, all the way to chapter 10. That will do. 2 pages later, I'm done. And I thought, I must be missing something. And it wasn't until I knew how to do a proper outline, which, as you say, is a plan, then I thought, oh, this really helps. And that's what got me through the pages. That's what got me writing more pages because I refer back to it. It's like a blueprint. If you are wanting to build a house, you can't do it just by saying, I want 4 bedrooms, a jacuzzi, a sauna, and a swimming pool. Well, how's the builder going to know where you want these things? It's exactly the same. That's what I likened it to, a blueprint of a house. You've got to have plans to know how you're building it, where everything's going.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And just like with a house, there's going to be parts that are really fun to see come together. And then there's the parts like you're remodeling your kitchen and you have nowhere to cook. What is going on? What have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, there's a lot of those moments. I'm going, what am I doing? What am I writing? It
Yeah,
just didn't
we
make
all have.
sense.
That's right.
Yeah, am I on the right path? What am I doing? But you guys with the memoir method, you come in the weekly Zoom meetings, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I doing this right? And you would have your professional input, and I'd go, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Oh, now that you say that, and
Hmm.
then I'd fill the lines in, fill all the pages in. I thought, oh, I should have done it from this perspective. But without that, you're kind of out at sea going, I still don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I think especially when you get into we call the chapter train, of course, you're doing chapter after chapter after chapter, it's so easy to feel like you've just lost yourself. Just what was I even doing? When you get in the middle of that manuscript, you kind of feel like you're just on your own. You're just kind
Oh
of
yeah.
flying.
Yeah.
You have no headlights.
There, there were times when it was like climbing Mount Everest. And I thought, I can't get past base camp. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Help me out here. But there are good times, there are troughs. So you go through these troughs I've found. You're on a good roll. And then suddenly it's like, oh, you're staring at a blank page again. And it's like, how do I write this chapter? What do I do? What do I focus on?
Mm.
It's just, it has its moments. But yeah, you have moments where you think, yep, I can do this. Yeah, this is going. This train's moving. This train's moving. And it's like, oh, the train stopped again.
Well, and one thing that I notice from running this group is that there will be weeks that somebody feels really just like lost and down, but maybe somebody else is feeling really good. And I like that there's kind of, I always feel there's a little bit of a collective energy. Did you find that having that group, your kind of cohort of women, and then the other cohort then that added after you'd started, was that helpful to kind of have other people in there with you?
It was because the others would have their input and say, well, why don't you describe the surroundings? What was going on? Were you cooking something at this time? I thought, oh, what a great idea. I cooked so I could talk about the roast that was in the oven while this whole scene was unfolding. But that was very helpful. And I'd come out of those Zoom meetings and it would be 4 a.m. for me here in Australia, but I'd come out bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and I'd have to go back to sleep. I can't go back to sleep now because I've got all these ideas in my head.
Oh, I bet. You were so dedicated. Y'all, Hope was like in every single call at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were so,
Except the
especially when
first
it was
one.
cold. Oh my gosh. Did you miss the first one?
Remember, I missed the first one because I went in from a different link and I'm like, hello?
Oh no. And it was 4 in the morning. I do remember that actually. That was terrible. Well, I want to get to, I think, the kind of juicy piece, the piece that I know everybody's going to want to hear about. So you were writing about kind of going on this journey to find your father. And meanwhile,
Yes.
all of your family is around you. Did they know that you were writing the book? How did they react? How did you kind of think about these are real people that are in my story, but it's also my story? How did you navigate some of that?
Well, lucky for me, I don't have a very big family. And it was just my mother that I had to talk to about it because things happened around her and she was fine about it. So once she gave me the green light, I didn't have to I didn't have to get the green light from her, but once I spoke to her and I said I'm writing a book, I think she was just like, yeah, sure, that's great. There wasn't much of a resistance. So that's where I was fortunate to just be able to write it.
Right, right. And then I don't want to give away too much of your book, but I do remember the end of your book is so good. I'm so excited for people to read it. One thing that I really remember was that you needed to take a trip as kind of part of the story.
I
You
did.
were on the edge of our seat because it, like some stuff that happened on this trip was going to really determine the direction that your book was going to take.
That's
What was
it.
that like?
It was the pivoting point, and I'd never met these paternal family members because, like I said, I didn't have a paternal side of the family. I didn't know them, didn't know them. I went back to Manila, and it was for another reason, but I thought I might as well meet two members of this paternal family. And to this day, they don't know I'm writing a book about this. I haven't told them.
Guys.
Not that you need a permission from anyone to write your story, but after meeting them and seeing their reactions to the DNA testing and all of that, I thought, oh, this has a different meaning to them as it does to me, as it has to me. So I need to review some things about how I'm writing this book because, as I said, they don't know I'm writing this, and I don't want them to pick up a copy and go, oh, our full name's in this. You've identified everyone. External family doesn't know. So yes, that that was quite an eye opener because I thought I'll meet them, everything will be fine, I'll keep writing, but not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love what you just said. Not that you need permission from anybody else to write your story. That is true. How did you always feel that way, or was that something that you had to kind of come to over the course of working through your book?
I had a few issues coming back because I thought, oh, how do I write this now? Because I noticed they're a bit sensitive about certain things about what happened in the past because everyone has different versions of what happened in the past. And I thought, oh, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. And am I going to lose these people I just met from writing something about the past that they may not agree with? And that created some contention. I just thought, I don't know what to do now. And it halted me because then I started feeling guilty. Oh, do I write this book? Should I be writing this book? What do I do? Those are the things that came up, and I just it halted me in my tracks, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember you coming into weekly call. I mean, there were several weekly calls in a row where it was really like, oh my gosh, have I, and you were almost done too. And I remember you
What?
thinking, like, have I made a terrible mistake even starting this? I don't know how I keep this book together and keep, everybody
Everybody happy.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, they don't know I've written it. I think they have. I've been dropping hints. I said, hey, I'm writing a book about my search for my father, but no one's put up their hand and said, no, you can't. How dare you? I'm writing it. There's nothing disparaging in there. It's just a story. And now with the name change, with the anonymity, it's made it easier for me to write about it because now I feel like I'm free. I'm free. I can write it. The only people who will pick up what it's about or who they are is if they're related. They go, this sounds like so and so.
hmm And we talked about that a lot in the program. And I love that, you're really narrating for us what it is like to work through that because no one knows. No one knows right off. And people will kind of ask me, well, what do you think I should do? Should I just change the names? And there's just no neat answer. There's so many personal factors that you have to consider. And I mean, I wonder, so if it had kind of come out to these other folks that they don't know about it, and they had said, don't write this book, we don't want you to write this book, what do you think you would have done?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a tricky one. That's $1 million question
That's fine.
because they still don't know. And then how are they going to react to this book? But I'm hoping the fact that their real names aren't being used, the last name isn't even in there, they'll be like, okay, this is okay. No one knows it's us unless they're related. And the odds of that happening, of one of the extended family picking up the book, is like being struck by lightning. So I'm counting on that factor.
Well, I think that's right, really, And I think, you know, most people aren't going to expect to see themselves on the page or someone they know on the page. So I think you're probably pretty safe. We'll knock on wood. But it is such an act of bravery. I think anyone writing their book, it's such an act of bravery because you are really exposing a lot of vulnerable aspects of yourself. And of course, you're bringing your family in, but it's also kind of scary, I think, to share your own journey. Did you struggle with that at all?
Yes, because I'm somewhat private. My socials are very just not when I say superficial, they don't have everything about family or pictures of this and that. It's just, here's what I'm eating at the moment at this nice restaurant. And so for me to write this book, it's like, ooh, I need to be vulnerable about this because there's nothing worse than picking up a book, right, where the person's not being genuine. And you can tell readers aren't stupid. They can tell. And if you're just being icing on a cake, that book's going to go back in the shelf. So for me, it took a lot. It took a lot for me to be open. Like towards the end, it was like therapy for myself. It was cathartic writing this book. And I felt like my own therapist to my childhood self. And then towards the end, things I didn't realize that were happening back then, I psychoanalyzed and went, oh my gosh, this is what happened. This is why this is an adult. It was, yeah, basically psychoanalyzing myself, but being open and vulnerable so that the readers can take that journey with me because there's nothing worse if it's just all, yeah, this was me and I was looking, but you need to open up in order for the readers to take that journey with you. That's what I felt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I love that you pointed that out because I do find that with a lot of the authors we work with in the group and also people we work with one-on-one, is that you come in because you want to write the book. The book is the thing. But there are so many other benefits that come from the process of writing the book that I think folks don't, it's impossible really to know what that will be like until you do it, don't you think?
Absolutely, because you don't know what comes up. You're writing this book, and then, like I said, plot twist. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to need to do this now with this chapter. And then going back when you revise it, when it was the early days and starting it out, it was just problematic trying to get words onto that page. But when you revise it, you seem to have gone through this process. It took me 8 months to write mine, but I'm going back now. I go, oh yeah, I could have put this in, maybe focus on this emotion, or I didn't milk this enough. I need to do this with that. And then guess what? It takes up another page and then you're writing away. But it would never have happened in the first 2 months. I would have sat there going, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. But now that I go back, I think, oh yeah, I should have mentioned that factor. Oh yeah, that's a good analogy. The readers will pick up that this is to do with that. Hmm.
That's right. Well, and I think the other thing that I remember talking a lot with your cohort about is that when you start writing and then you write chapter after chapter, you get to be a better writer through the course of that process. So very often then when you go back to chapter one, two, three, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, who wrote this?
That's exactly right, because I'm missing things with punctuation marks that shouldn't be there. It's like, what am I texting to somebody? What's going on here? But yes, you do improve as you go along, and you don't realize it because you're just there, you're writing along, you're plodding along, you're doing your book, you're doing your story. But by the time it's all done and you've got that thick manuscript, well, I wish mine was really thick, but you've got that thick manuscript and you go back and you go, wow, my writing style is altered somewhat. And you compare chapter 1 to chapter 18, 19, 20, very different and more developed towards the end. I found that I had more pages towards the end. In the beginning, it was struggle city to get to a certain number of pages.
Oh, I
By the
remember.
time it was my 16, it's like, yeah, I'm on the home stretch here. Look at these 9, 10, 11, 12 pages. I just had verbal diarrhea coming out.
Well, I think there's a lot of factors, right? And I remember you were like, I'm a broadcast journalist. I don't know how to use a lot of words. But I think one thing that happens to everybody, when you were talking about the kind of catharsis and psychoanalyzing your childhood self, is that as you go through the process, your themes get so much more complex. And I wanted to kind of ask you about that. You had actual changes kind of to your plot, but there also were changes and refinements to kind of how you were thinking about the theme and the message and what you really wanted people to take away. What was that like to kind of shift and be kind of open to things changing at the same time that, you've got to have some kind of stable ground. You've got that blueprint, that plan. So what was it like to see kind of some of your themes and messages shift over the course of writing the book?
As I was writing it, I found that, hang on, my theme is a lot deeper than this. The key message is a lot deeper. Yes, I'm looking for my father, but guess what? I also found myself in the process and who I am, who I was, where I come from. Now I have a solid foundation as to what my background is. I no longer get offended by what used to offend me, because it's like, no, because I know now for sure that this is my heritage, this is my background. So it was chopping and changing, but at the same time, I was learning about myself. Sure, this is the theme, sure, this is the key message, but it kept evolving, not so much changing, but it evolved. It evolved to a deeper, much meaningful theme and key message for me.
Well, I remember also kind of workshopping your key message, which I love that in the early days of a new cohort, when folks are bringing in these messages to share with others in the group. And, the program, I should say for folks that are listening, the program is not, we don't ask you to comment on other people's writing. But in those group calls, I do think there's a bit of a magic to having a group of people that are all kind of doing the same task, really just kind of spitballing about things like your theme and your message, these kind of deeper things. Did you find that that was helpful when we were kind of thinking about how to push you on your message a little bit?
Yeah, it was like sitting with a group of girlfriends, Sex and the City style. All we were missing were the Cosmopolitans. Cosmopolitan at 3 in the morning for me.
Oh, that's right. That's
It
yeah.
was
Mine's
just
under my desk. You just can't see it.
it was just a chat, and no one's judging you. No, you're in a safe place. You're in a safe place. You're talking about your troubles. You're talking about your book. Oh, I'm stuck here. I don't know what to do with this one because this person got annoyed that I said this, and the whole thing was my idea, not their idea. But everyone then says, oh, but what about this and what about that? So it's like sitting with a group of girlfriends who are helping you and supporting you in every way. And there's no judgment. Like I said, there's no judgment. And you walk away feeling 6 feet taller because everyone's had their say, but in a nice way and not in a bullying way. It's just, I think you should do this, or what about this? It's just suggestions. No one's attacking you or judging what you're writing. That's what I loved about it.
Oh, I'm so proud of that part of the program. Yeah, we really try to make sure it is very encouraging and uplifting and you feel supported. There's a support piece that's, how do I do an outline? We have trainings on that. But I think there's the feeling of being supported, the feeling that, if you weren't in a call, we would miss you. We would say, "Where's Hope?" Like I think that is
I miss you guys.
yeah, and I mean, I think that, you've got also those weekly emails with Emily where you're kind of checking in and she's kind of sharing her kind of individual feedback for you. And I really try to, in that program, we really want to cultivate this sense that we do know who you are. We care about you. We care about your book. So I'm so happy to hear you say that.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like you guys see us and you hear us. You're like the cheer squad that's on the sidelines. And whenever we're faltering on the track, you're like, okay, get up. We're going to help you get up. You're going to keep running. You're going to keep running to that finish line. That's what it was like. That's what I felt. And that support is yeah, next level. It's great. That's what got me through because I thought if you guys weren't around, I would have gone, this isn't good enough. The writing looks crap. It's so lame. I don't know what to do, but I kept going. And, I still look at it. I'm in the editing phase. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to need to call the professionals in on this because this is my version and I'm not going to get attached to it. But yeah, that support I found was the key, instrumental in getting that manuscript finished.
Yeah, because it is so easy to fall off. Like I said, especially, you get to chapter 10, 11, 12. That is where we really consistently start to see people just kind of feel it like, what was I doing? So we actually just literally this morning we said, can we had a group member pull your key message back up. Let's revisit that. What were you trying to go toward? And I think sometimes it takes an outside person seeing you struggle like that, in a way that you can't see yourself struggle. It just feels bad to you.
Yeah, yeah. You guys could see if someone was dropping off and you just pick it up and go, "Hey, you got this. You can do this." And then that sort of brings them like you overcome with encouragement. You go, "Yeah, yeah, I've got this. I can do this. I can do this." Yeah, it helps.
And you did. And I will tell you my very favorite post that has ever been in that app was when you posted the picture of your whole printed out book. And it's like, oh, you
Oh,
did that. You did that. Oh, it's so fun.
and then the video of me flicking through that manuscript.
Oh, I love it. I was like vicariously, it's like we all can celebrate everybody else's accomplishment and you kind of get these vicarious boosts. Oh, it's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I had messages going, "Oh, you're such an inspiration." I'm going, "Really? I just put it on the carpet." But you
Oh,
don't realize what effect it has on your cohorts who see that and they go, "Yeah, that'll be me. That'll be me in a few months. If they're the cohort before you, that'll be me. And if they're the current ones, it's like, yeah, I've got this. If she got there with that, I'm going to get there too."
yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. Well, I'm wondering, for all of our folks watching, a lot of people are kind of in this drafting stage. They maybe have an outline, maybe don't, but they're really trying to work through the process. And I wondered, what was for you, as somebody who has written for a long time, what was the most surprising part of writing this particular type of project?
It was a learning curve. It's a huge learning curve. And so whenever you do something new, you always feel dumb because you're sitting there and you go, "I should be doing more than," like you tend to be hard on yourself because you think, this should all be flowing like a waterfall, the words coming out, easily, effortlessly. I learned that it's not that way. You'll have your good days, you'll have your bad days, but you keep on going. It's like going to a gym. If you want to get fit, you're not going to get fit by wishing you got fit. You're going to have to show up on days where you don't feel like lifting those weights. And this is like weightlifting. You've just got to show up. Even if you type in 2 lines, you've showed up. That's what I found. I learned that it's not as easy as you think, but to what was the saying I heard, that you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great.
I love, yes, that is so true. And I think that applies so much to book writing because so many people have what you have, a kind of a loose outline, an idea, and they do feel really passionate about it. It's when you don't know where to start, it's just really hard to sit down.
That's it. And your brain tells you, yeah, yeah, type this, type that. And then you run out of gas. You go, okay,
Mhm.
well, I've said that now. Where do I go from here?
Yeah.
What do I do? So there are moments where you do want to stop because you think, well, that's the end of this story. But no, it's not. Remember when I said to you, oh, I've got 10 chapters. My outline was 10 chapters. Yeah, that's it. And you go, no, that's going to be difficult for you. And you said, you need to do double that number. And I said, I come from broadcasting. You know
I
that it's
remember.
all about brevity. You're asking me to double what I have. And then when you reasoned with me and said, no, it's harder because the chapters will be longer, then it made sense. And I thought, oh, I get it. So for me, that was the aha moment. Oh, you're going to have to write. You're going to have to write more, but it can't just be jibber jabber. It has to be solid writing. But yeah, it doesn't flow like you imagine. You have to let the hardships happen because to get to the finish line, you'll be out of breath in some points of that race, but you do get your breath back and you do have to keep running.
Oh, that's exactly right. And this is why you have heard this advice so many times. I think we say it almost every single call. You just have to keep going. And it's so tempting to say, oh, but this chapter isn't good enough yet. And I think you had a chapter or two where we were like, you might just have to, like, you might have to just leave it for now and come back to it later.
Yeah, yeah, because I think some people too are perfectionists and I'm into detail and I just think this isn't good enough. Like I would read through it and say, what is this lame writing? You're just too self-judgmental, and that's the problem people have, and that's what stops books from being written. People get too perfectionist and say, this isn't good enough. I'm done. But yeah,
I think
one of the
that's
learning curves. Drop the perfectionism. And you guys told me that. You said you're too into it, like you're too looking at it from a perfectionist lens.
yeah. Well, I just said to somebody on the call this morning, we look at our own first drafts, but we don't see other people's first drafts. So if you are reading memoir, as you should be while you're writing memoir, you are reading somebody's highly edited, multiple revision draft. You can't compare that to what just set down on your first try and wrote out, which is why the revision process is so, so important. And I was so excited for you to get into that, to do your reverse outlining. What has the revision process been like for you so far?
Can I be honest?
You can, you
And I said
can.
to someone, I feel like I'm marking my own essay in college. It's like I feel dishonest, not dishonest. I don't know what the word is. I'm looking at it going, am I doing this right? What am I looking for here? So
Yeah.
I did the bird's eye view and now I'm into the thick of it, but it's like I don't know whether I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, whether I'm too biased, whether I'm too attached to the story. But that's the view I get it's the first time I've had to do revision for my own work. So, yeah, for me, it was like correcting my own essay.
Yeah. Well, and the good thing about having that blueprint, it does change a little bit, but you can at least always return to kind of what was your vision. But revision is really difficult for sure.
Yeah, no, it's not an easy thing, but it has to be done. It's one of those things. It's like a band-aid, you rip it off, it has to be done. You can do it slowly, you can do it quickly, but it has to be done in order for well, part of the polishing process of your copy, because you're not going to hand in your first draft. That's too embarrassing. I don't think anyone should do that. It's nothing to do with their writing. It's just it's a first draft. It's the rough draft.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And since you have, we really lean on you've got to have this detailed outline and stuff does change, but I know for sure that your structure is good. And that is such a reassurance when you're revising because you planned that structure. And I know you put a lot of time into making sure it was really solid. So you'll be fine.
Yeah, it changes, but you just stick to the structure and just rejig some things. But yeah, you have a structure. That's the whole point.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Well, as we are kind of sending people off, I wondered if you would share what's kind of your number one piece of advice for someone who's either kind of thinking of starting a memoir, they're kind of poking at a memoir. What's your number one piece of advice?
Sign up to the Memoir Method.
I did not tell her
Because
to say that, y'all.
you're going to need all the support you can get, and you can't do it on your own. A lot of people think I can write a book on my own. Yes, you can, maybe, but you won't have that professional support to guide you and to glean over your work and tell you, well, there's a hole here and there's a hole there, you need to fill it. So yes, if you want that support and you want that book out there and you want that book to sell or people to read it, just to read it.
Yeah.
The Memoir Method. Highly recommend it.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. We are so proud of the program, truly. Like, I always wonder if people can tell, like, I really do love this program. So, yeah, I hope y'all do sign on. I would love to see you there. So, Hope, if the listeners want to learn more about you and your book, I know that they'll hear about it on our socials because we are so excited for you to be making this progress. But are there places that they can check out your work or things that they should do to kind of follow along with your process?
At the moment, I'm not posting much about the book, but I'm mainly on Instagram, and it's just my full name at Hope Fabillar, but it's spelled Fabillar. And I'm also on X. So they're the two main social platforms. Facebook, I'm barely on, just for family reasons, but they're the two.
Yes. Well, follow Hope so that you can keep up with all of that. And we'll put the link to in the show notes so that folks can grab it. But Hope, thank you so much for chatting with us. I know that this is just going to be so eye-opening for so many people that are thinking about starting this journey that you are now so far along. Oh, it's so exciting. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You know what they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this is exactly what holds so many people back on their memoir projects. That is exactly why we created the Memoir Method checklist, a full, complete list of every single step you need to take to get that memoir written, published, and marketed successfully. You can download it now at pageandpodium.com/checklist.